Welcome to Recovery, the Whole Enchilada, a podcast dedicated to exploring the many layers of healing and growth within the recovery community. I'm your host, Peg McDermott, along with my co-host,
Mother Hagaman.
I love you.
Hey.
And together, we share conversations that honor the complete recovery experience. And today's conversation is about vacations in sobriety. And you actually just came back from a fabulous vacation, so it's really timely, and it's also spring, and we're heading into a heavy vacation time of year. So I think this is pretty timely. So, yeah, I'll kick us off, girl.
Well, so it's like your first Christmas, your first Thanksgiving, and now you have your first vacation, right? And I'm going to go back in time because my first vacation, I think I was a month sober, and I went to the beach. And I was so triggered by the beach because for 25 years, the beach and drinking went together. How about, right?
Mhm.
Exactly. And not just just beautiful drinks, like frozen drinks with little straws and little pineapple, little hula girls. So I'll never forget it. We went to a place down in North Carolina. I'll just name it Topsail Island. Great, beautiful place. And I'm on the beach and I'm walking along and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm hot, sweaty. And it's the kind of thing that I couldn't wait to get back and get something to drink. And I have my kids there, my husband, and I'm noticing as I'm walking along, there's all these people walking along. They've got cups in their hands, and I'm thinking, "Wow, they're already partying on the beach." And I was getting a little triggered by that. But then I realized when I was looking at their cups, that there was like shells in the bottom of their cups. So there's a lot of people walking around carrying these cups. And then I noticed more that the shells look like they were see-through cups, look like black things inside the cups. So I went up to somebody and I said, what are you looking for? She goes, "Oh, we're looking for shark's teeth." I go, "Whoa, really? Shark's teeth?" She goes, "Yeah." She was showing me the shark's teeth. And then looking around, all the people on the beach carrying these cups with shark's teeth. And then it began the obsession to find shark's teeth.
Right.
And I spent every moment. See, so it just goes to show, we have this obsessive mind, right?
Mhm.
That I just transferred it over to being a shark's tooth connoisseur. And I was out there in the middle of the night with lights trying to find shark's teeth. I mean, I found a bunch of shark's teeth. It was so much fun. So I will say, in my own way, I found a way to navigate that first vacation by an obsession, but a healthy one in a sense, by finding shark's teeth. You see what I'm saying? So it would be something that you could get into, like if you went somewhere and maybe you drank and you sat on the beach. This time you get on a boogie board and you start surfing, like trying to find another way of making good memories without a drink in your hand. That would be one of the first things I'll share. But I'll share more. But tell me about your first time if you can remember.
I don't really remember. We went to the Outer Banks for many, many years, like going back to the mid-'80s when it wasn't even really well known. And for most of that time, I drank on those vacations. In the last, gosh, I've been sober 30 years, so we've been going a long time. And I think my first one without drinking was with sober people. I think it would have been hard for me to be with the folks that I had been drinking with. It would have been very hard because they were pretty heavy drinkers. I usually just hung out with heavy drinkers, so it was like, and so I made sure that I had phone numbers with me. I shared in a meeting that I was going on vacation, and I had maybe a year and a half. And I got my sponsor's number, and then I got all of my numbers in my network, and I found meetings down there. And that was my safety net because I needed to create new traditions. And a lot of the traditions we had been a part of drinking was very much about going out on the deck and drinking on the beach and going to several local haunts and drinking. And and then going through a brew-through, which I'd never been to a brew-through before, and I thought it was like manna from heaven when I first saw one. I was like, "Oh my gosh, you can just drive through and just pick out what you want." It was like an alcoholic's dream. And now when I go by them, I'm like, it doesn't even faze me. I don't even think about it, right? But in the beginning, I knew it wasn't going to be super easy, but it didn't have to be painfully hard either. So I really loaded up, made a lot of deposits in my well-being by going to a lot of meetings and sharing that I was going on vacation, getting phone numbers, finding out where the meetings were, where I was going. And that really helped a lot. I can't lie and say I didn't miss it, drinking on vacation. I did, but I would think it through and I'd be like, oh, it'd be nice to have a beer or whatever. And then I thought to myself, it's not going to stop with a beer. It's not going to stop with one drink. It's not going to stop at one happy hour. It's going to go on for the entire time I'm here, and I won't even remember the vacation. And that's the thing, is those that I went on, there were some wonderful memories, but there were a lot where a friend of mine who was staying with us, she wasn't a big drinker, and she went to bed early, and I stayed up and we played cards and we drank most of the night. And I was embarrassed that I had done that. For me, it just felt it was starting to get to the point where it's getting really frayed around the edges. And I needed to really rethink my vacations. And I couldn't remember a lot of them. So I would look back and I'd be like, a lot of that time, vacation, I don't remember it. So it's like, you drive all that way and you spend all that money to just forget because of alcohol? And to me, it made perfect sense at the time, and now it seems insane to me. Do you know? And so I think, am I gonna be able to relax? Am I gonna have fun? You know, when I got sober and I went on my first few vacations, and I had a blast. I had so much fun because you look at everything with new eyes. When you're sober, you just appreciate things more. I did. And that really made a difference, in my, uh, making it a pleasant experience and making sure I filled that what felt like a void by taking the alcohol out, I filled it with things that were healthy.
You know, so what we're saying essentially, before you even go on a vacation, just like before you go to a party, you plan ahead, right?
Mhm.
In all honesty, I now look at hotels that have healthy food, have like a gym, maybe they have a spa, and they're not a destination that's centered on a nightlife there. So I'm not going to have to be walking around and there's a club going on in the hotel. I'm just kind of be very careful about where I'm staying. I like to have like a kind of schedule, a good schedule that definitely has some kind of exercise in it where we're hiking or walking or we're going somewhere, we're walking around ruins or a museum or that type of thing. I also need to have boundaries with the people I'm with, especially if they're drinkers. I've made mistakes not having boundaries with drinkers. I mean, I'm talking just normal social drinkers that like to abuse alcohol sometimes, like especially on a vacation. That's where you see it, right? And also to have an awareness of where meetings are.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to try to do that when you go over to like Japan. I found one meeting the entire week that was English speaking. And so just recently, just to come to my most recent trip, I went to Ireland. And when I think of Ireland, I think of what? I think of a lot of drinking. And I think of a particular beer that's made in Ireland. What's that beer? It's dark and foamy. And so planning ahead, I we did spend a couple nights in Dublin, and the two people I was traveling with was my husband and my son, and they are normies. I don't know. I can't take people's inventory. But I did say that I would be willing to go out one night in Dublin to a bar for a little while, but I'm not going to stay very long. And so I had that boundary. And I just want to tell you that I had my spring water. They give you bottles of spring water, so I'm drinking my spring water. and I'm watching a ton of Guinness Stout around me. And I just want to find a dessert now that looks like that. Dark brown chocolate with a brown foam. I mean, I was just dreaming of like a sweet dessert, but they don't make desserts to look like that. So I was noticing as I was looking at all these that it was time for me to go. And I didn't want one. I didn't want to be around it anymore. And so I asked my boys to walk me back to the apartment, and I wanted to control their experience and tell them that they couldn't go back out, but I didn't do that because that's not my place to do that. But I will say this is what's so beautiful, because before I even started this trip, I just asked higher power, please have this vacation be about steadiness and ease. These are actually 2 yoga words. There's an actual sutra, Dhiram Sukham it is. Is that our practice, our daily practice becomes about steadiness and ease. And that's what I was hoping for in this trip to Ireland. But anyway, in this moment of walking back from the bar, back to the Airbnb that we're staying with, I saw a guy trying to pee in the bushes and fall over into the bushes. And then we turned the corner down another alleyway, and there was a girl vomiting on the wall. And as we got then up to my apartment, I smiled at the universe. I said, thank you. Thank you for not letting me romanticize drinking, because that's where I was going, because that's where I go. That's what I see. And that was just a wonderful, and it might sound really warped that I'm even saying this, but it felt like it was a gift to remind me, this is, for you, it's serious. This is serious. This is where you head, you know?
Oh, yeah. You needed to see the ugly side of this disease
Yes.
to remind you that it's not all fun and games for us.
No. And of course, I said blessings over these people because they did not look like that was fun. But I will tell you that I had the conversation with my family ahead of time. I also want to just say that before I got on the plane, and this is another thing too, when you embrace this new way of living, instead of having expectations of negative things, and there was a lot going on. There was a protest in Ireland. There's so much stuff going on with airports. I was thinking, how is it going to be through security? Do I have to get there 3 hours ahead of time? And there was a lot going on. And I just said, please, steadiness and ease all the way. And I couldn't believe it when we got dropped off at the airport that we made it through security, and I timed it in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Couldn't believe it. Easy peasy. We get into Ireland. It was another 10, 20 minutes. Easy peasy off. And then leaving the same thing. Just no lines, empty planes, and just smooth. It just all went really well. And the other thing too, which was pretty amazing, the protests stopped the day we were there, gone. And all the Irish people told us throughout the whole week, you're so lucky. It had been raining 52 days in a row. And the week we were there was only sunshine.
Wow.
How does that happen? And to end the vacation, and this is the big piece. This is when we come back to like the awe and wonder when you really live in alignment, right? When you live in alignment with your core values and have principles, and you are living in the highest vibe way, and you're taking great care of yourself, and you're of service to love in the world. The last place we stayed at, this Airbnb that we stayed at, the woman wanted to, mostly we just would push buttons and get into the places. This particular woman wanted to walk us through the parking and her apartment. And I said to her, I have one more gift I need to get, and I want to get a hat, but I don't want it to be glorifying alcohol, because that's another thing too. It was all these Guinness Stout hats everywhere, right? And I didn't want a hat glorifying partying. I wanted just a cool hat. And I said I didn't want it to glorify alcohol because I don't drink, I said to her. She said, I don't drink either. You know, we both kind of looked at each other. And then we're talking along, and I said some kind of comment. Yeah, I know how much I love this trip, but I'm still kind of crazy. She goes, I am too. You know, and then she said to me, she leans forward and she goes, are you a friend of Bill W? You know, that's kind of the code word for those of us that are in a 12-step program. And I said, I am. And she said, so am I. And we just had the best conversation. And my husband and my son are standing there watching us just break all barriers and actually end up hugging each other. She gave me a meeting place to go. I mean, I just think that's so beautiful when you just let go, let the higher power run the vacation too, you know, and just have expectations of calmness and peace and steadiness and ease. It was probably pegged one of the easiest and the most calmest and the nicest and the funnest experience I've had in a vacation my whole sobriety life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That says a lot,
Yeah.
especially in Ireland.
I know.
You know, our heritage, at least mine, on both sides of my family, got the Irish virus. And
Yes.
yeah, that's good. What a wonderful time
Yeah.
you had.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went on a cruise not this past Thanksgiving, but the Thanksgiving before. And I really enjoyed the people I went on the cruise with because we were all sober. And there was actually a meeting on the cruise. There was maybe 8 of us there, but it was like good to have a place to go. But I noticed that there is a lot of drinking on cruises, and the dinner, the wines, and the poolside, and everywhere. And I realized that I'm probably not a big cruise person. I loved our ports of call a lot, and I loved the water and the sea and just the boat kind of gliding through the water. It was so calming and magical. And when we went out into where all the people were, there's just a lot of drinking. And it didn't bother me, but I don't like to be around a lot of alcohol for a long period of time. It's just not a good combination for me. We're going on a river cruise this next Christmas on the Rhine, I think. And I might have told you this, it's starting from Switzerland and ending in Amsterdam. And it will stop at every little town that has a Christmas fair. And it's like my freaking dream come true. Sounds like fun, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
On a river, and it's just chill. I've never done it before, so I don't know how chill it will be, but I'm thinking it's gonna be pretty chill. But I'm sure that there's gonna be alcohol. This is a drinking world. Most people can drink normally. And I just prepare myself for that, and I don't really let it be the center of my attention. I need to be aware of what's around me. I need to be aware of what I have in my hand. I need to be aware of what I pick up. If it's a gathering, in terms of a glass, to make sure it's the glass I marked that didn't accidentally get swapped out for something else. That's really important, guys. When you go to a party or on vacation, whatever, you have a lot of folks around you that are drinking, just be careful of your beverage, your glass, and make sure you keep it with you at all times, because innocently things just happen. You know, it's not meant to be harmful, it just happens. And so it was important for me to be aware. And at the same time, not let it be the center of my vacation universe. And as I gathered more time, vacations became more about sober traditions and fun things that didn't involve alcohol. And honestly, the people that I vacation with, they don't drink. So that helps a lot. And those that I have, they're just normal. Ordering a beer, not even finishing it. It's like, that is not in my realm of thinking, but that's what normies do. And so I'm really careful about who I spend time with, and also really careful, depending on the vacation, there are certain danger zones for me that I have to be aware of. Airports and hotel rooms at night, because that's when I would drink. I would drink if I was going away, I would drink in the airport waiting for my flight. If I was in a hotel and I had time, I would hit the minibar hard. And I've heard others have said in their vacation experience that can be a slippery slope. Even for business meetings, it can be a very slippery slope. That is, to me, those are two real slippery areas that I'm very aware of. And I don't glamorize it or romanticize it. That is just something I want to make sure that either I don't have to spend a lot of time in the hotel room, or I've just mentally prepared myself with prayer and other ways to have guardrails up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I've heard people share too that they've actually had the mini bar removed out of the room ahead of
Yeah.
time and ask about that. So a lot of what has to happen is you've got to be very proactive and very protective of your sobriety. So it really means educating yourself and of course you're going to make mistakes because I went on a trip with a woman, a friend that was a drinker and a partier, and she was meeting her college friend who was also one. And so I was like the third wheel. And so what I would do is I would go to dinner with them and then they would go on to the night and I would go back to the beach basically. And I'd be up early at the crack of dawn going to a 7 o'clock meeting, which was so perfect in Hawaii, which is where we were, because then I could powered up and was strong in my program and could share about how hard it was, and everybody nodding and going, "Yep, yep, you come here with your friends that are drinkers, you're gonna this is what happens." And I really learned from that. I never did that again. But you try to learn from these things, and also this idea of these vacations, going with sober people to places, that's really perfect. And there are apparently sober cruises and vacations now. I have never done one. Have you ever done? No, I've never done one.
But I'm on a list that I get, so I get updates on sober vacations.
Yeah, well, let's do one, okay?
Let's do it. And then we can report
Okay.
back to our little podcasters.
I think we should. I love it. One of the fun things I did do, and here's I'll move into a little bit of another area because I want to just help any of you that think that there's this big retreat coming up. It's a sober retreat, or this conference that's coming up and it's a sober thing. And that could be my vacation. And what I want you to understand that oftentimes those kind of experiences are not real vacations, okay? They're actually, you're doing a lot of inner work and inner growth, and there's a lot of heavy duty sharing, and it can actually have an opposite effect on you that you actually leave there feeling more tired.
Mm.
And so I want to bring this up because I have been to retreats and I'm really grateful for the people that run those retreats that on the last day really tell you, be careful when you're driving home, talk to a trusted person, take care of yourself, don't do too much the next day so you can kind of recoup yourself from doing a lot of inner work. So if you have this idea that going to a retreat is going to be a vacation, there's one in February that I went to and it was they had a theme and all that stuff, but you're surrounded by so many people and so much energy and so many shares and so much going on that you can get just knocked about and feel it can really wear you out.
Mm.
So please try not to think of those places as it's rejuvenating to you. It's going to strengthen your recovery, but it's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I am going to point out, I did find another type of retreat, though, that was very fulfilling to me, and it was a yoga retreats.
Mm.
I had to check in ahead of time to make sure there was no alcohol at the retreat. This would be very important because some of these yoga retreats have drinking. Okay? Or ayahuasca or whatever.
We went to one.
Okay.
Didn't we go to one a while ago? What was it called? I can't remember.
Where was it?
I don't know. It was a yoga retreat and it was fun, but there was drinking and other things going on. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I'm hearing sober person beware, be very clear and understand what you're going towards because any kind of health-oriented retreat, and I've seen people in recovery go to a writing retreat where everybody's learning to do writing, but then at night there's a huge happy hour. Like just check in on these things. Don't just take them at face value. Find out what is the offerings, and you can make a decision around that. I remember I went on a vacation with my parents to Mexico, and it was a bus trip. And so we drove from El Paso through the border down there. And at every stop, there was a shot of tequila put in front of you and a margarita. And when that first happened, the first stop, I was like, oh no, I'm going to have 10 more days of this. Oh, no, 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 no. And so I went to the tour guide and I said, listen, I'm going to just be completely honest with you. I'm an alcoholic in recovery and I cannot have alcohol in front of me. And you know what he said to me? He goes, my father is an alcoholic in recovery. He's got 47 years. He goes, I'll take care of you, honey. And he did. He did. Everybody had these shots of alcohol. He brought me virgin pina coladas. He brought me all kinds of fun things to drink that were fun. And he put all kinds of flowers in them. Wow, that was so nice. You know? That was so nice.
Yeah. And I think it's great. that he did that. And I think it's a good habit to get into, is to maybe have your own safe signature drink that you enjoy, whether it's a virgin pina colada or just a concoction that you've put in cranberry juice and 7-Up and a lemon and whatever works for you that doesn't have alcohol in it, but it's your fun signature drink that you have on vacation. And I've had a couple, but it's like, for me, bubbly seltzer water works great. But initially, I wanted to have my own thing that wasn't alcoholic, and it was fun. But the thing that we want to emphasize is really having a plan before, during, and after your vacations, or on a business trip, or on a retreat. Knowing what's going to be there, who you're going with. Obviously, you'll know who you're going with, but you have to decide, is this a safe group for me to be around when I'm sober? And there are some friends that I wouldn't go on vacation with. I love them dearly, but I wouldn't, because they drink and I don't. But I can spend time with them otherwise. And making sure that you have a plan, and especially have an exit strategy. So if you're on vacation and you're at a party, or you're at some tiki bar or whatever, be aware that you're in a bar. I remember I was in Annapolis one time, and I was with my godson and his family, and my goddaughter and her family. And we were waterside, and I wasn't even watching where we were headed, but we were headed to this bar that was right on the water. And as I walked in and I saw these people around me with drinks in their hand, and I'm looking at the bar, and then I'm looking at the water, and all this association just crashed into me. And I started to have a little bit of a panic attack. And my goddaughter could see me, and she said, "Want me to walk you outside?" And I said, "Yes," because I hadn't prepared myself mentally and emotionally to be in that environment. And so that's why I really stress that if you do need to be in that kind of environment, to just prepare yourself and enjoy new memories that you'll remember. I love the fact that I can look back on my vacations and remember everything and not be embarrassed about anything that I did. I didn't act out, and when I drank, another personality would come out, and I'd have to apologize for that side of myself that I didn't even recognize, and neither did anyone else that was with me. And so I really enjoy my vacations now. I still prepare for them. I still let my sponsor and mentor know if I'm going to be away. I always have her number. I always have my network's numbers. I always find meetings. I'm aware. I'm always aware. And that makes the vacation feel safe and enjoyable.
I texted a friend when I was in that bar and looking at all those Guinness stouts, and I said to her, "The dark beers are winking at me." And she said, "Can you get to a meeting?" I said, "No, you're my meeting." Truly.
That's right.
And yeah. And then just one side note, and I don't want to forget this. I love this idea of having your own drinks. And oftentimes where I'm at right now is, and the waitress always looks at me like I'm nuts, or the bartender. I go, "I just want a club soda, but I want you to throw everything green into it that you have in the back." So that means if you have basil, or you have chives, or you have, whatever, I just want you to throw the green in the drink. Because when they throw that green in the drink, it really looks like a cool drink.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good thing. And the second thing I want to just say, whenever you go out, and this is sort of like a side note, but whenever you go out and you're at a nice restaurant and they have the wine glasses all set up for you, just remove them. Have somebody remove them. My husband always takes the wine glasses away and puts them over on his side and gives them to the waiter, just because it just frees up that moment where they can come over and pour it, and you have to say no, and then you're like, you have that hesitation, or not, or you just that resentment or not. But just better just to move those glasses aside. So just keep that in mind when you're going to a nice place. And
That's a good point. And you know what? We are not a glum lot.
we're not. We still have a lot.
We know how to have fun as
We do.
sober human beings. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Recovery the Whole Enchilada. And if you connected with today's episode, please share it and like it and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Your feedback helps shape future conversations between Heather and myself. We love you. And remember that your recovery story, with all its flavors and textures and complexities, does matter deeply. And until next time, stay strong and keep growing.